Kia ora. Kia ora koutou no ingarangi o kutupuna. I whānau mai au I orongo mai. Kei pōnaki ahau e noho ana ko Mary tōku ingoa. Thank you so much for inviting me along today, and it's been really interesting and wonderful for me as a person who's mostly working at ground level at the moment in terms of disabled people's experiences, to hear about some of the policy and strategy and kind of networking change that we could have in a really positive way. So I'll talk a little about my experience in terms of being someone who grew up in the early 90s in Upper Hutt and who was the first child of my parents who had no experience in disability really, but just thought, she's not doing the same things as the other children, let's get her checked up. And they had a really good GP, and I also want to make a strong point of my privilege that I'm from a Pākehā middle-class family, and that my parents had the time and energy of how their lives were when I was young to really focus on advocacy, and they had scientific backgrounds, so when the doctors were like, we found this rare genetic condition, it'll mean Mary has significant vision issues, we don't really know how much she'll be able to see, but she might have these other health problems, but we really just don't know. So compared to a lot of other families who might have had negative experiences or had other things going on in their lives and might have very cotton-wooled their children, I had the fortune that my parents just let me try all the different things, and at the time I was starting education, the change was from all kids with a significant vision issue being sent to Homai in Auckland, no matter where their whānau was from, like in this very specialist, narrow system. I was sent to my mainstream school, which I could walk independently to by the time I was 7, and it was just a few minutes down the road. So I had all these things which enabled me to access other parts of society. I had very regular checkups with ophthalmologists who, across a quarter of a century, I've met a lot of them every few months, go and get a checkup, and some of them are very much, deficit model, medical-based, biomedical approach we've talked a lot about, and make me feel like I am a label and not listening to my other interests, and assuming a lot of things in terms of low expectations and what I'll be able to achieve academically. Just because there hasn't been anyone visible in those types of decisions that I might have wanted to go off and do, it doesn't mean that it's not possible. And also some other wonderful experiences of health professionals having a really strong interest in my interests. And when I had about 10% of normal sight as a child, and so I could read large print and kind of follow my friends around if they were wearing a bright colour one day, and if the bright coloured blob shifted down a bit, I knew they were probably going down some steps. And all my friends were mostly non-disabled, and I did feel like a bit of an oddity. And as a teenager, my sight got worse, and I learnt to read Braille and learnt to use a cane, and a lot of things that meant, click, Mary has a visible disability, rather than just being a young person who walked into other people a bit more than others and didn't see the same coloured netball poles on the court and stuff like that, or had to hold something really close. So there was a big change in my teenage life, and I think one of my coping mechanisms was to swim a lot, and so I went to 2 Paralympic Games, and I think especially from that experience, I gained a broad understanding of people, like pan-disability, people's experiences all over the world. So I got to recognise what we were lucky to have in New Zealand, but also the perception of us from people overseas in terms of social justice and disability rights and environmentalism. And then I came home and overwhelmed by not great experiences by people, of my friends who are disabled and having really difficult experiences, and mostly not individual people, but the systems that, as we talked about yesterday, like some things work and I've had largely positive experiences, but some things are really clunky. So I think the big things for me are focusing on what people want. You know, you might have two people with the same diagnosis, but actually what they might holistically want out of their lives could be so different from each other. What does quality of life mean to someone? How can they do the best with what they have and have the right type of support? I think those are the main things that I was keen to kind of share. And accessible information. Yes, I still get sent print letters from the hospital that I cannot read myself, and it's, like an independence and autonomy thing. We do have the systems now that I could get those and read those independently, but I still have to get a flatmate sometimes when the system doesn't work quite right. I think that would be good from me. Kia ora.